there, and welcome to this free lesson. One of the things that makes blues-based soloing so unique and almost infinite is the option we have of mixing both major and minor pentatonic scales in our improvisations. In a lot of other styles of music, such as heavier rock or metal or even some jazz chord progressions, we just don't have that kind of flexibility. At least not with our playing starting to sound kind of weird. If you enjoy listening to blues-based players, you've definitely heard solos that mix the major and minor pentatonic scales, even if the difference between the two are not specifically decipherable for you yet. Now, some players definitely do it more than others, but the way those notes hit when players switch in and out of the major and minor pentatonic scales over those kind of 12-bar blues style chord progressions is just uniquely awesome and colorful. And it's just a sound you just don't hear in any other styles. Now the trouble is, if we want to add this awesome sound to our own playing, it can be kind of tough to do tastefully, at least initially. If we kind of just learn the major pentatonic scale shapes and learn the minor pentatonic scale shapes and just kind of switch between them, it's probably going to sound a little bit robotic. The note choices probably aren't really going to smoothly connect together, and it might just kind of sound like you're kind of mishmashing two different scales together, which we don't want, of course. So today, I'm going to give you some fun blues-infused licks that demonstrate a mix of the major and minor pentatonic scales. I'm going to break them down slowly as well as talk about specific note choices too. So you'll really get kind of a deep dive of which notes are coming from the minor pentatonic scales and which notes are coming from the major pentatonic scales and why those notes are where they are. Now, if you're newer to scales and theory, it's likely that a lot of the terms I'm going to use here might be a bit unfamiliar, but just try to stay with me even if that's the case, even if you're not certain on all of the meanings I'm using. Reason being is that doing this deep dive with me here is going to be really good for your ear and for your playing feel. And in time, you'll be able to recognize and identify all these key terms as well. Before we dive in, I apologize for the shameless self-promotion, but if you enjoy what you see on this channel, please consider dropping us a like or even a subscription to the channel if you're so inclined. Let's dive in and have some fun. This first lick is largely going to be based on the minor pentatonic scale. I'm going to be picking my way up through the scale, capping the lick off with some dramatic blues-based string bends, but then towards the end of the lick, I'm going to just drop in a single note from the major pentatonic scale. And even though it's just a single note, it's going to add some really neat, almost brighter color to the lick. Let's check it out. So this first one starts on the 12th fret of the low E string. When I get to the 10th fret of the B string, I add in a note just from the blues scale, the flat fifth. That's the note that I hit in the 11th fret of the B string. So I go 10, 11, 12, do a 1.5 step bend. Then I'm descending down, I'm hitting 12, 11, and 10 on the B. Position shift down, hitting 8 on the B. So far, everything has been from the minor pentatonic / blues scale, but when I go to this 7th fret of the B, that's the natural second from the major pentatonic scale. So this next lick is going to have some aggressive string bends, a bit more of a classic minor pentatonic sound with this one. However, I'm going to descend down the scale, and towards the end, I'm going to throw in a natural 6th, which is a major pentatonic scale note. It's going to have a really nice, bright sort of ending sound to the lick, almost not too dissimilar from the first one in terms of the mood that we're going to be going for. Let's check it out. I start off with a unison bend on the 15th fret of the B string while simultaneously holding the 12th fret of the high E string. Then I descend down this sort of basic box pattern of the minor pentatonic scale. 12 on the high E, 15, 12 on the B, 14 on the G. I do 12 on the G with a little tug on the string, kind of like a micro bend there. And then I do a little position shift where I have to hop down, my ring finger grabs the first major pentatonic scale note. Everything has been minor pentatonic so far. My ring finger grabs this natural 6th, the 11th fret of the D string. Then I finish off with the root note, the 9th fret of the G string. This next blues bass run, it's going to combine some descending phrases from the major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, and those two are almost going to have really kind of a chromatic passing tone type of effect. This is a fun one to play, and I hope you enjoy it too. Let's check it out. This example begins with the major pentatonic scale by hitting 9 on the high E, and then 12 and 9 on the B. The first minor pentatonic scale note comes in when I hit the 8th fret of the B string, but I use it as a quick grace note, hammering on quickly to the 9th fret of the B string. So I hit the 9th fret on the G, back to the 8 on the B, and then 9 and 7 on the G. This is going back into the minor pentatonic scale now. 9 on the D, 7 on the G. I'd throw in notes from the blues scale, minor pentatonic blues scale, by hitting 9, 8, and 7 on the D. I hit the flat third on the 5th fret of the D string now, so I'm an octave lower than I was previously. Then I do a quick hammer on to the natural third, the 6th fret of the D string. So after hitting 7 and 5 on the A string, I finish with just a mean sounding minor pentatonic scale phrase. This next lick looks at primarily minor pentatonic scale phrases, but just adding the natural 6th in again. So you should get a pretty varied sound from this one. This run starts with some descending sort of string skipping double stops. My middle finger is getting 9 on the G. I'm picking the 3rd string, and I'm hybrid picking with my middle finger the 1st string. I get the 9th frets of the G and E strings respectively. Then I'm going to continue down the scale pattern. Continuing down, I hit the natural 6th again, an octave lower, and the perfect 4th. By continuing down, and that kind of caps off with some sort of micro bends on the 3rd fret of the high E, to the 5th fret of the B, and then a bend and release on the 5th fret of the high E. Pull off to the 3rd fret, and just kind of push the string upwards a little bit to get that. This next double stop lick is a lot of fun, and it involves putting our pinky on the 8th fret of the 2nd string and our index on the 6th fret of the 1st string. Then there's a little blues scale minor pentatonic run, picking the 5th fret and hammering on to the 6th and pulling off back to the 5. Hitting 8 on the B, 5 again on the high E, 8 on the B, 5 on the B, which is the root note, and then there is another major pentatonic scale note making an appearance there on the 6th fret of the G. That is the natural 6th again. To finish it off, I'm bending up a half step to the 8th fret of the B string, which is the flat 3rd. So mixing a major and a minor pentatonic scale note, but it gives kind of a... Then on the 6th fret of the G string, I'm hitting the natural 6th, which is again, it's veering more towards the happier blues sound, because the natural 6th is a major pentatonic scale note. And finishing on the root note there. Next, there'll be a really cool ascending chromatic idea that mixes notes from the major and minor pentatonic scales. Let's check it out. Have here is major pentatonic to start. This is the 9th fret of the B string, and that is the natural 3rd, which is a major pentatonic scale note. So I go 9 and 12, or major 3rd and root. Then I go 10 and 12, and the 10 is the perfect 4th, which is a minor pentatonic scale note. Then pick 11, but it's really just a quick hammer on to 12. And that 11 is a flat 5th. And then after that sort of tension building, kind of more melodic idea, I have more of a descending, strictly minor pentatonic blues phrase, which is again giving us more as that tough, mean blues sound. That descending run, I hit 12 on the high E, 15 on the B, 12 on the B, and this 14 on the G, hammering on to 15 on the G, pulling off to 14, and then pulling off to 12. After that, We have 14 on the G, I roll to 14 on the D, and then hit 12 on the G. There's a quick double stop, barring the 12th fret of the 4th and 3rd strings, and then doing a quick hammer on to the 14th fret of the 4th string. There's a couple more notes from the minor pentatonic scale that I accomplished with slides, and a bend on the 12th fret of the A string. And really, that whole descending portion has all been minor pentatonic scale, but then I'm going to do this little lick to finish, and that's 10 on the A string, 12 on the A string, and then a bend from 11 on the A string, and then finishing on 12 on the E. So you have... This next lick also involves adding the natural sixth to some really mean, raw-sounding minor pentatonic phrases. Again, the natural sixth being a major pentatonic scale-based note. It's a neat sound here, so let's check it out. We start off some minor pentatonic blues scale type bends. That's me bending the 10th fret of the B string up a half step and back down, pulling off to the 8th fret of the B string, and then hitting 10 again. So then after that, there's this really quick phrase that I kind of jump to, and then I grab this, I kind of hybrid pick it and kind of slide in. That little hammer-on pull-off combo is me picking 7 on the D, hammering on to 8 on the D, and then pulling off back to 7. I hit the 7th fret of the D string again, and then pick 10 and 7 on the A string. My pointer finger is going to hop up from the 7th fret of the A string to the 7th fret of the G string. This is all minor pentatonic type stuff. I'm going to pick 7. After I hit that 7, I roll over to get the 7th fret of the D string. I pick that, bend up a half step, and release the bend. And then I get the 5th fret of the D string, and you hear that 7th fret again. So a quick little phrase by getting the 7th fret of the A, and then the 5th and 7th frets of the D. This phrase has a major pentatonic scale note. I start off with the flat 3rd, which is the 5th fret on the D string, but then I hammer on to the natural 3rd, which is the 6th fret of the D string. I get the root note on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, and then bend the 7th fret of the G string up to that same root note. And then this ending here uses the perfect 4th from the minor pentatonic scale, the natural 3rd from the major pentatonic scale, and those two notes are where you get kind of that bright sort of resolving sound that I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier. Gives a cool ending to the run. Okay, so that'll do it for today's lesson. This topic of mixing major and minor pentatonic scales, quite literally, you could write a whole book on it. It's kind of an infinite sort of topic, which makes it one of the really cool things to explore. But I hope that you got a little bit of inspiration from these licks and that you enjoyed them, and it might kind of inspire you to start trying out these scale mixtures in your own playing. Thanks again for watching. Remember to consider liking this video or leaving us a positive, nice comment if you enjoyed what you saw here today, or even subscribing to our channel if you're so inclined. We really appreciate it, and every little bit helps. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you with a new video very soon. Cheers.